If you're like me, you totally underestimated the psychological and economic impact of social distancing. Even if you're in good health, you might have been laid off, you might have had your hours cut, or you're just stuck at home. So how long will this go on for? In this video, we're going to talk about what it will take to safely end social distancing. Welcome to another episode of Life Prescription. My name is Shri. I'm a board-certified internal medicine doctor currently working as a hospitalist. Over the last couple months, the number of COVID-19 cases across the United States have exploded. Take a look at this graphic. The United States has 4% of the world's population, but 33% of the world's cases and 27% of the world's deaths. Compared to the rest of the world, we have 8 times the number of cases and 6 times the number of deaths you would expect for a population of our size. In this video, we're going to answer 2 really important questions that will help us understand how we got to this point and what it will take to end social distancing. The 2 questions are: why did we social distance in the first place? And why is social distancing still happening? The timestamps for each section of this video are in the description below. And if you find this video helpful, please make sure to share it with your friends and family, and make sure to hit the like button. It will help other people find this video. Starting off with our first question, why did we social distance in the first place? Well, the most important reason is because of how it spreads. You may know that when an infected person coughs or breathes, those droplets hang out in the air or land on surfaces. You can get infected if you come into contact with those droplets. But if you're hanging out at home and you're isolated from other people, you cannot get the disease. It's that simple. The virus needs to infect another human in order to replicate and survive. And if it can't get to another person, it will die out. We also chose social distancing because of how contagious the virus is. Our best evidence shows that one infected person will go on to infect about 3 other people. So if each infected person goes on to infect 3 more, the numbers start to increase quickly. And that's how we've gotten to where we are now with over 1 million people infected. Another reason why we're social distancing is because of how deadly the virus is. I'm hearing a lot of comparisons between the seasonal flu and coronavirus, so let's just go ahead and compare the 2. Seasonal flu typically takes place every year in the fall and winter, lasting about 6 months. As far as we know, coronavirus has been in the United States since January 20th, but has only been having a drastic effect for the past 2 months. Now, let's compare the number of people who have died from both diseases. The CDC estimates that at a maximum, 60,000 people will have died this year due to the flu. That's about where we are now with coronavirus as of the making of this video. But remember, that's with social distancing. That's while we're all stuck at home, and it hasn't stopped. Just yesterday, 2,900 people died in a single day due to COVID-19. That would have been much worse if we had all been going about our daily lives as normal. So when you compare how many people are dying in the time periods that these 2 diseases are taking place, we have about 2,500 people dying per week due to the seasonal flu, whereas we have nearly 2,000 to 3,000 people dying every single day due to the coronavirus during its peak. As you can see, it's not really a fair comparison. The current evidence shows that COVID-19 is about 10 times more deadly than the seasonal flu. Moving on to our second question, why is social distancing still happening? Because of a lack of testing, we don't actually have a good sense of how many people were infected and how many people are currently infected. What we do know is that there are more than 1 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the United States, but we don't know how many cases we're missing. The amount of testing is increasing in many parts of the country, but not quickly enough and not to a large enough degree to actually know what's really happening. Public health experts estimate that to get Americans safely back to work, we're going to need, on the low end, about 1 million tests a week, and on the high end, about 20 million tests a day. That's a pretty big range, and the right answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Whatever the right answer is, we're nowhere near that number. As you can see from the CDC's own data, we have not tested more than 25,000 people a day ever. So we are very far away from knowing how many current infections are out there. The other tricky thing about this virus is a lot of people don't have any symptoms for days after they get infected. For example, if I got infected, I might not show symptoms for 5 to 7 days. That's nearly a week I could be going around spreading the virus. And in the early days, people were doing just that, leading to an explosion of cases. Remember, just a couple months ago, we only had a handful of known cases, and today we have more than 1 million confirmed and more than 60,000 dead. One epidemiological concept that is useful to know is the basic reproduction number. and is represented by this symbol, which is called R naught. When R naught is greater than 1, a person infected by the virus will infect more than one other person, and over time will result in exponential growth of infections. When R naught is less than 1, the number of cases within a population will start to fall. The R naught for coronavirus, as we understand it, is somewhere between 1.5 and 6. This number isn't an inherent property of the virus. It's affected by environmental conditions and by the behavior of a population. So if we vastly expand how much testing we're able to do, we can guide the behavior of our population. If we're able to test whole towns and cities in order to show consistent decreases in the number of cases, then we can start to slowly open the places that we know have a low number of infections. Besides a lack of testing, the other reason that we still have social distancing going on is because we don't have a way to prevent or treat this disease. We're still at least a year away from a vaccine. And so far, the medications that we've been using have at best been shown to decrease a critically ill person's disease by just a few days. You may have heard that there is a drug called remdesivir that will receive emergency authorization by the FDA for treatment of COVID-19. That's because the trial that was going on to evaluate the effectiveness of this medication showed that you may be able to decrease the amount of time a person with severe illness spends in intensive care. Now, if confirmed by other ongoing studies, that is huge and potentially a game changer, but not necessarily in the way you might be thinking. This is not like if you got a urinary tract infection, took an antibiotic, and are now cured. We do not have that kind of treatment for COVID-19 at this time. What happened in this trial is the amount of time a person spent in the ICU was decreased by about 3 days. That may not sound like much, but it could potentially lead to decreased complications from being in the hospital, less of a chance that our hospitals get overwhelmed like they did in New York, and hopefully less people dying. It's going to take months to years before we expand our medical arsenal to treat this infection. And when that time comes, we should feel a lot more safe walking out our front doors. In conclusion, social distancing has been our greatest weapon in stopping new COVID-19 cases. This virus has the unfortunate combination of being highly contagious and extremely deadly. But the psychological and economic impacts of social distancing are clearly weighing on our society. In order to safely ease off social distancing, we have to drastically increase the amount of testing we're doing so we can know where new infections are happening to isolate those cases and where infections are decreasing so we can ease off our social distancing policies. At the same time, we need to expand our medical arsenal so we have options to prevent and treat this disease. A lot of people ask, when is it all going to be over? Unfortunately, it's not going to be like a light switch where we just turn social distancing on or off. Everyone's going to be wearing masks, restaurants are going to be mostly empty, and I don't think going to large venues for sports or concerts is going to be happening anytime soon. But we know what the alternative to that is because we've already seen it happen in places like New York, Detroit, and New Orleans. And to me, that's too high a price to pay. Thank you for continuing to learn with me as we navigate these uncertain times together. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will see you soon.